Greetings, Culture Warriors. This is Jeff Vieira, author of Culture is Everything, and your host for this Dispatch from the Front. Today I got a little bit of happier news. It's bittersweet, but hopefully a little bit lighter than the last few episodes have been. I think everyone needs a break from the darkness at some point. There's just a lot of dark going on right now, at least here in the United States of America. This is from NBC News. Breonna Taylor's legacy. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Breonna. Caring, super goofy, and a devoted paramedic. This is by Karen Robinson Jacobs. Long before former Louisville EMT Breonna Taylor became a hashtag, a rallying cry for justice, and the smiling face on refrigerator magnets, she was a big sister who snuggled in bed with her little sister watching scary movies. Taylor, shot and killed in her apartment by Louisville police in the nascent moments of March 13th, was a daughter, a godmother, a niece, and a best friend who dreamed of caring for the tiniest, most helpless of humans. Last Friday would have been Taylor's 27th birthday. 27. As both federal and law enforcement officials continue investigations into how Taylor died, family members and her best friend spoke with NBC News about how she lived. She did right by everybody, said her sister, confidant, and roommate, Junia Palmer. Literally, she goes out of her way for everybody. She would go above and beyond. Taylor is the lone woman in a Tribune tragedy that has sparked outrage across the nation and the globe. Protesters have marched and in some cases destroyed buildings in anger over African Americans repeatedly dying at the hands of whites, particularly white police officers. In the case of George Floyd, who died after being placed in a controversial neon neck hold by a Minneapolis police officer, and Ahmaud Arbery, who was chased by a white father and son and shot to death as he got through a Georgia neighborhood, murder charges have been filed. For Taylor, the Louisville Metro Police Department's Public Integrity Unit and the FBI Louisville Field Office continue trying to piece together what happened. Police did not respond to questions from NBC News. The state's Office of Attorney General has been asked to serve as special prosecutor in the case. What is clear is that before 1 a.m. on March 13th, police fired into an apartment on Louisville's southwest side, not far from the state line. Attorneys for Taylor's family say Taylor's boyfriend, fearing a home invasion, fired a single shot toward noise he heard coming from the front door. Police, attorneys say, responded by firing off more than 20 rounds, some of which traveled into nearby apartments. 8 of those shots found Taylor in an apartment hallway, ending a life that began June 5th, 1993, in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's when Taylor arrived as the firstborn child of Tamika Palmer. In her debut, Taylor was also the first grandchild in Palmer's family, Junia Palmer said. That earned Taylor the nickname The Baby, which stuck even after Junia was born 6 years later. She was very helpful to me growing up, said Junia, 20, who lived in the apartment with Taylor but was not home at the night her sister died. She, to me, was like a second mom. In Michigan, in her middle school years, Taylor and her family lived in a townhome complex where the family of Alina Battle also lived. Battle, a reserve 6th grader, found in Taylor, a 7th grader, someone who was a really fun person and super goofy. We just clicked, said Battle, 25, who now lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. She understood me and vice versa. Through endless hours playing board games or Sega's Super Monkey Ball or just doing nothing, the two would become best friends for life. In 2008, Taylor and her family moved from Grand Rapids to Louisville, where Tamika Palmer could rejoin her sister, Junia said. Battle said the friendship remained strong despite the distance. When she moved to Louisville, me and my sister, in summers in high school, we'd go down there and stay with her, Battle recalled. Even as adults, we would travel back and forth between Louisville and Charlotte and stay in touch with each other. Taylor immediately loved her new hometown, Junia said, especially after the sisters discovered they were geniuses at school, excelling in classwork. Taylor landed on the honor roll but shied away from a key celebration because she didn't want people to think she was just this big nerd, Junia said, even though she really was. In high school in Louisville, Taylor met Kenneth Walker III, who also, said his cousin Richard Hughes, had a love of board games. Pals at first, Walker eventually bought Taylor an engagement ring that his mom held for safekeeping. As Taylor and her sister grew up, they became confidants, Junia said. We talked all the time. We were best friends. She said, even if we were calling ourselves busy. We would always still talk no matter what. Didn't matter what was going on. Basically, we were each other's personal diary. Often the two would snuggle in bed and turn on a movie, Janiyah said. Even though she fell asleep within the first 3 minutes of the movie, it was still a fun pastime and one of the things Janiyah said she missed the most. Taylor liked to tell jokes. She wasn't very good at it, but we used to let her, Janiyah said, in part because Taylor seemed to get such a kick out of making others smile. Even though she was kind of a big crybaby, Taylor chose a career in medicine. Until 2016, she served as an emergency medical technician for Louisville Metro Emergency Medical Services. Man, how many lives did this young woman save? Most recently, she worked at Norton Hospital as a PRN and at Jewish Hospital as an ER technician, said family attorney Lonita Baker. She loved the adrenaline. She loved the quick, let's hurry up and get this person. Let's make sure they're okay. She loved the whole hands-on, helping a patient, just helping somebody else made her smile. Her EMT shifts could be 15 hours long, Janiyah said. She would come home drained, eat a bowl of Fruity Pebbles, and go straight to sleep, she added. The Fruity Pebbles, because that's my favorite cereal. Sometimes if things were slow during a hospital shift, Taylor would call and wake me up and she's like, oh, you should bring us a board game. I want to teach my coworkers how to play this or that, just so she can help them smile through their shifts. Taylor loved being a healthcare professional, Janiyah added. She had begun filling out paperwork to attend fall classes at Ivy Tech Community College in neighboring Indiana, her sister said. She was having trouble deciding on whether she wanted to work in a neonatal intensive care unit or in a trauma unit. Her sister said years ago when Battle gave birth to son Taylor became Breonna, his godmother. Before their birth, Taylor had a teal quilt made, which Battle will now use to remind her son of the longtime friendship. I knew the person that she is. She would always be there for my son. She was just a good person. I knew that if anything ever happened, he'll be able to look up to her, count on her, and she would just be there every step of the way. Taylor surprised Battle and Tamaj by driving to North Carolina in February for the toddler's second birthday party. It was very unexpected, but it was a great thing to have her there. Though the two spoke and connected via FaceTime daily, that was the last time they saw each other in person. Taylor had an ex-boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover, who was the target of a narcotics investigation. Police obtained warrants to arrest Glover and search miles from Taylor's apartment looking for Glover, another man, and evidence of drugs. A separate warrant using information attorney Baker allowed police to search Taylor's apartment. In January, police saw Glover leave Taylor's apartment with directly to a known drug house, according to a search warrant affidavit. The warrants were executed about the same time. How execution of the warrant for Taylor's apartment went south so badly is a matter of hot debate. The police department did not respond to requirement. Documents released in the case and statements from attorneys for Taylor's family paint an outline. About 12:40 a.m. March 13th, 3 plainclothes officers arrived at Taylor's apartment, armed with a no-knock search warrant, which gave them the authority to enter without announcing their presence. Regardless, police insist they did knock and announce. Multiple neighbors told attorneys for the Taylor's family they did not hear an announcement from officers. One of the officers said police spoke to a neighbor at the time. Baker said unable to identify that neighbor. Police used a battering ram to enter the apartment and immediately were met by gunfire, a police spokesman said in a televised briefing. Baker acknowledged Walker, who was with Taylor, fired a shot from his licensed gun. A bullet struck Officer Jonathan Mattingly in the upper thigh. Walker called 911 and Taylor's mother, saying someone was trying to break in. Police found no drugs in the apartment. Mattingly, along with officers Brett Hankinson and Miles Cottisgrove, have been placed on administrative reassignment. The 3 are the defendants in a wrongful death suit filed by Taylor's mother. Tamika Palmer, who reached for comment, has described Taylor in several televised interviews as someone who was full of life and was excited about its next chapter. People need to know, Palmer said Friday on Good Morning America, that Breonna Taylor mattered, and Breonna Taylor was great. I think certainly reading about her, she sounds like a really great lady. And at first, as I'm reading through the article, I'm thinking to myself, why did he shoot? Why did her boyfriend shoot? And it only becomes clear down at the bottom of the article that what's in dispute here is the police announcing. It's funny that they claim they announced because the warrant apparently was a no-knock warrant. What a no-knock warrant means is that in a situation where the police are afraid that somebody will either respond violently or destroy evidence, they do not have to knock on the door and announce their presence. So it seems odd to me, the claim that the police were executing a no-knock warrant and then announced themselves. They knocked, they announced themselves. So I'm with the apartment dwellers here. That sounds an awful lot like they simply made up. What is likely to have happened is that it's 1 a.m. She's known for working long hours. She was relaxing with her boyfriend. And suddenly, a battering ram hits the door. She immediately calls to report a break-in. And what else would you think it was? He produced his personal firearm and shot the person coming in. No one heard anyone say police, etc., probably because they didn't. And then because it becomes obvious once that pistol goes off and then the officers fire 20 rounds in the chaos that ensues and kill this young woman, that they needed to make up a more plausible story. And that story involved, no, we announced, and he shot us anyway. It'll come out in court whether that's all. They'll rely heavily on the fact that he has priors and was somehow under investigation for drug ties. But it's obvious the police were caught with their feet flat, because why would you, if somebody shoots at you, you shoot at the person shooting at you. They shot her. I can't tell from the article whether that her boyfriend, was targeted and they missed or what have you, but it just seems kind of odd that she would be the one shot. Now, it's also frankly hard, given the description, to see what role alleged racism had to do with this. Unless they just don't execute no-knock search warrants on people who aren't black, or there was evidence that the cops just fired indiscriminately because they saw the people in the apartment were black. I don't know, but at least in the way that's described, there doesn't seem to be much of a basis for that. It seems to me like what's more in play here is the militarization of the police. And this is something I've talked about in the past. But when we look at it from the values perspective, with the rise of special weapons and tactics, SWAT teams, and as the FBI in particular embraced a counter-terror mission in the 90s, and then certainly after 9/11, 2001, and the fall of the Twin Towers, there became an increased emphasis on the police adopting military weapons and tactics. And so they go in with surprise and overwhelming force and, just armed to the teeth with automatic weapons. Usually they throw in a flashbang or something, a grenade, in order to disorient the people in the close quarters that they're in. Doesn't seem like they did that here. But there's been this marked trend in this kind of conduct of conducting an arrest as though it were a military operation. If this guy went from the apartment and he went to a known drug house and he was in fact dealing in drugs, why do you need to have, an infantry platoon to take him? Obviously they've tailed him before. Presumably at some point there was the opportunity to physically arrest him. If they're worried about his being violent, why not do that before executing the warrant on the apartment? So if he has anything stashed there, you can do so without fear that somebody's in there that's going to shoot back. A lot of odd questions, about this, but I would put it down to the fact that the police now tend to view these things as prepping a battlefield rather than arresting a criminal. And especially, I don't know what size drug dealer they suspected him of being, but this kind of operation, you would think he was Pablo Escobar. How many other people lived in that apartment complex? How thick were those walls? I know in San Antonio, because of gang violence and drive-by shootings, many places advertise bulletproof firewalls between apartments. I don't know if that's the case in Louisville. If it wasn't, then how many people could have been killed because they're sleeping in their beds at 1 a.m. when the shooting starts? 20 rounds fired seems like a lot. But with the militarization of the police came a shift in values. Previously, imperfectly, the core ethos of the police was protect and serve. And the object of those verbs was the community, especially innocent bystanders. The idea was that they would lay down their lives rather than allow an innocent bystander to be hurt. With the shift to the military model, that has changed. Because, of course, in the military model, now the people you encounter are not the community innocent bystanders to be protected. They're presumed to be the enemy. And the focus on protection is protecting yourself. Out here in Colorado, we had the Columbine shooting. One of the most disgraceful aspects of that shooting was that the highly militarized, highly trained police sat outside the building while allowing the shooters to have free rein and kill kids. That was deemed to be the tactically sound option. What was really needed was for a cop with some guts to get in there and protect some kids. Couldn't be found on that day. Couldn't be found. This has happened in several school shootings since. Similar behavior. Maybe the answer to such things is to refocus the police department not as a besieged force fighting to protect a fortress, whether that fortress be their squad car or their precinct house. Maybe the answer to this is for cops to get back out into their community, to know their people, and to protect and serve that community. I think maybe part of the issue that led to this wonderful young woman's death was simply that we've adopted the wrong values in policing. I can't see how the riots are going to make this any better, as it will naturally prompt many a police department to consider more draconian tactics, or the alternative of withdrawing policing altogether, which is what the party that runs many of these cities seems to favor at the moment, and probably will right up until the time the looter shows up at their house. But it would be better for all involved if we look back at that older set of values and embrace that more fully. Protect and serve, equal justice under the law. Justice is blind. We don't care what your name is. We don't care what your skin color is. We don't care who you date. We don't care. We enforce the law. Wouldn't that put us on a better path to where we don't have to worry about mourning people like Breonna Taylor? Because I don't know. It seems to me like we have an awful lot of political hacks out there who will put their finger up in the wind and just do whatever is good for them to maintain their power, maintain their wealth, unmolested by their fellow citizens who pay the price inevitably for the selfish and stupid decisions they make. We have plenty of those people. But my God, we don't seem to have enough Breonna Taylors in this world, in this country. We've got to do something to right that wrong. Thank you, and have a great day.